this is going to be fun. We've got the committee fairly much over here, a few here, and we have guests. So if you've got questions, we've got everybody here that you can ask. My name is Angie Martin, and I'm Vice President for Financial Planning. I'm the Chief Budget Officer at the institution, and I am co-chairing one of several work groups that are working on the strategic plan. My co-chair is Dean Michael Tick, and unfortunately he is interviewing candidates right now, so he may be showing up late depending on how the interview schedule is going. But I'm going to talk to you about the process that we went through and where our work group is and the next steps that need to happen. We're called Working Group Number 4, and our charge was to develop the part of the plan that addressed developing a strong and sustainable UK infrastructure. As this evolved over time, at the beginning, Working Group 4, we worked on Goal 4. But as this really developed, it expanded, and so now Working Group 4 worked on Goals 7 and 8. So I think at the end of all this, we're going to have a matching game and try to figure out who can match the team with the goal. But the planning process, we have 4 committees. We have a steering committee, the planning committee, the communications committee, and the integration committee. And just real briefly, the integration committee is the committee that's charged with taking all the work and putting it together and getting that one voice. The communications committee is exactly that. They are responsible for hosting these town forums and any of the broadcast emails that are going out. The planning committee is made up of the work groups. And then the steering committee is made up of the co-chairs of the work groups along with senior leadership at the institution. The provost is chairing the steering committee. And we've got 7 work groups now. We started with 6, but there are 7 now. We are work group 4, and we have 2 goals. So we are somewhat unusual. Thank you. But this was our original charge, that we had to review research and benchmarking work that was done. A very good document called the Trends document is actually out on the strategic plan website, and it contains an excellent summary of where UK is compared to national metrics. It's very informative. We had to use that to basically identify the strategic priorities and the key actions that we thought the university should move forward with in the next 6 years. So this strategic plan does go through the fiscal year 2019-20, and we are right now working on what's called the key outcomes. How will we know that we achieved our goals? Where would we be in 2020? This is the members of the working group, and you can see we had a very diverse group. It was, and still is, an excellent committee. I don't think I've ever worked with such actually a fun, engaged group. This has been a good project from that perspective. They've been wonderful to work with. And we talked about the integration committee. I would not want their job of trying to take 7 distinct reports and putting them all together, but that is what they're working on right now. These are the members of that integration committee. These are the ones that are really responsible for writing that final output. Now this is the process that we have gone through, and as you can see, we're in phase 3. We are in the get feedback mode. The provost really wants feedback from these town forums. We're also doing small focus groups on various aspects of the goal. We want to make sure that the plan is comprehensive, that we have not omitted anything, but that it's also doable. We don't want to put goals out for the next 6 years that just are not achievable. So this is your opportunity, or one of many opportunities, to see where we're at and to ask questions and to propose changes or comments, opinions. Did you think about this? Where is that? That kind of thing. We are taking extensive notes on this discussion, and all the feedback from all our small focus groups and from this forum, as well as all the forums, will be given back to the integration committee. The way the strategic plan is structured right now is under an umbrella of 3 strategies that you can see across here. Then each strategy has multiple goals, and then each goal has actions, items, and tactics. How would we achieve it? So what we are talking about today is the 3rd strategy, engage in smart growth, operational excellence, and accountability, and specifically Goal 7, which talks about transforming the campus, the brand, and infrastructure at UK, and Goal 8, which is develop a sustainable financial plan. So the first thing that we do is we go through, for each goal, we're going to go through a slide of strengths and a slide of challenges and a slide of opportunities. And I don't plan to just read this to you. This will be available on the web, as well as I believe it's already, overall, it's in circulation now on the web as well. But the strengths that we saw, of course, were that the building projects that are underway, you can hardly look anywhere without seeing a crane. We really are addressing the facilities and the improvement of the physical campus. We believe that UK healthcare and UK athletics are very strong for the regional aspects and reputation of the institution. And we believe that UK's brand is very strong within the Commonwealth, and that actually, we'll get to that, as one of the opportunities that we have is to expand that brand, the academic part of the brand, across the country. We do have a very strong financial position right now. Our balance sheet is strong. It has been strong. This institution is well managed fiscally, and the credit rating agencies recently acknowledged that. As we manage our resources and our infrastructure, one of the things that came to the forefront, even in the strategic planning, is how do we maintain our debt capacity? How do we use our debt capacity for those priority needs of the institution? How do we expand beyond our debt capacity even to do what we need to do, such as what we've done with housing and the public-private partnerships? The challenges. Speaking of Kentucky, are actually an older institution, the oldest public institution in the state. We have more than $1 billion in deferred maintenance needs that do need to be addressed in a systematic way. We do have concerns about the state debt and the fiscal and federal and state statutes that really are limiting or constraining our capital movements. And we know that the Commonwealth of Kentucky is experiencing flat or declining enrollments throughout this plan through 2020. Given that, we know that we're looking at flat or declining numbers of academically qualified students graduating from high school. We are seeing the positive trend of a higher percentage of high school students going on to college. So what opportunities are we looking at? We do know from a revenue standpoint that our non-resident tuition rates are very competitive. When you look at us compared to some benchmarks, we're second from the lowest on an out-of-state. We're seen as a bargain institution outside the state. And we really see that the uniqueness of our academic programming allows for a lot of multidisciplinary collaborations and creates this distinctive opportunities on our campus. As you know, or probably have heard many times, we're one of 8 public research universities in the country that have our mix of academic programs on campus with an academic medical center. So Goal 7 has 3 actions, and each action has multiple tactics. So based on all this research and reading, and we had presentations come to the group, and the group followed up with questions, this is what our work group has put together as our recommendations on the strategic plan at this point, pending, of course, input from these meetings. But our first action is to renew and strategically expand the campus facilities. And you can see the tactics here, and they're still broad. We have not yet identified those very specific tasks that need to be done to do this. This will be the work that will take place over the summer. But one of the things, the last job of the committee that we are going to tackle this week is to identify those key outcomes on what do we need to be measuring to know that we achieved this? Where are we now? Where's the baseline? And where do we need to be? So we'd love to take your comments on that as well. A second action is to strengthen the academic brand. Our committee talks a lot about the different existing brands that are on campus, that we have an academic brand. UK Healthcare has a strong, well-known brand, as well as UK Athletics. And how can we merge or create some synergy out of all of our brands in order to put more focus on the academic side? I can't tell you how many times, even myself in different meetings, somebody says, well, I didn't know that. Why don't we tell people that we're so good? You know, how can we pull that in and get that out in the public and get the recognition that we really do deserve? We do know that in transforming or strengthening that academic brand, that through that we want to develop international and out-of-state recruitment strategies for various student levels. So action number 3, did I skip one? No? Okay. Action number 3 is to support a 21st century research learning and administration. We've had some discussion about this. We really had technology in the title to begin with, but the more we discuss this, we don't want to date the plan. We don't want in 5 years to look at it and think that, oh, well, technology is an old-fashioned name and it doesn't capture what is going on in the current environment. So we tried to keep it more broad to make sure it would encompass what's going to be going on in 2020. Then looking at Goal 8, it's to develop a sustainable financial plan. We are recognizing, of course, we've had many conversations on this campus as well as many over the world actually, about how public higher education funding is changing, how the state appropriation changes, enrollment changes, tuition changes are really getting to the core of how we change our business and what do we need to do to react to those changes. Now, the strengths, we know we've got a strong financial position. As I said before, these are pretty much the ones that we put up before, except for the philanthropic efforts. We know we have a very good, strong development function. The challenges, though, that we have really of an institution that has not kept its administrative side of the house, if you will, up to par or up to process for a variety of reasons. We know that many of our administrative process remain decentralized. They still remain They're on paper, therefore they're inefficient. We do know that, of course, declines in state and federal support, that's a given. We're facing that. And again, we're looking at those that $1 billion in deferred maintenance and trying to develop a sustainable financial plan. So what are opportunities? And these we've really looked at before, except for the third one. As you know, the university has been working on a new financial model. This is a resource allocation model. It is under review at this minute. We are looking at implementing it July 1st, 2015. That's been the plan for quite a while. We're going to be running parallel models. The goal is to still do that during fiscal year 14-15. And we really see that as an opportunity to help enhance our progression as a top research institution. So Goal 8 has 4 action items. The first one is to achieve targeted growth of student population while maintaining affordability and breadth of academic programs and increasing academic quality. And if we knew how to do this, we could sell it and make millions and millions of dollars. But we are trying seriously to do this. We know that looking at our benchmarks, we're very small compared to other research institutions. And we know that undergraduate population helps fund the engine of this institution. We know we have to monitor the number of graduate students compared to undergraduate students. We have to monitor the makeup of our undergraduate students. Out of state, in state, we don't want things to just occur and us wake up in 10 years or even 6 years and go, what happened? We now don't have any Pell Grant students. Well, we've got to be smart and strategic about this targeted growth, not only in terms of the academic programs that these students want to come in and learn, but also the diversity that we keep on campus. So some of the tactics that we're looking at are looking at the capacity for student growth. Where can we grow right now? And is it in the undergraduate, junior, senior years? If that's where we've got capacity, maybe we really need to look at, our group talked a lot about increasing enrollment of transfer students. How do we increase retention rates and remove disparities in various student populations? As we know, first-generation students and underrepresented minorities have lower retention rates, lower graduation rates. How can we get rid of those gaps? And we've got to make sure we're getting that optimal net tuition revenue from our operation, from enrolling and instructing students, given that we know we want a certain population, we know we want to teach and educate Kentuckians first and foremost. We know that's our job, but we want the diversity. We need that financial resource because, again, this whole financial world is changing or has changed. Action 2 is to increase the effectiveness by realigning resources and increasing efficiencies. We are simply looking at how can we do our business, our day-to-day business, better and faster. So we want to simplify and streamline our administrative regulations. We want to look at expanding the use of integrated business units throughout the university. We have these pockets of excellence that are coming up through the colleges. We want to look at increasing the percentage of externally funded faculty compensation. Again, we're trying to diversify our revenue sources. Action 3 is to enhance our philanthropic efforts. And so we want to look at the coordination of the university's development function using best practices. As you know, the colleges have development officers, and we do have a central development function. Is that operating in the best way to enhance our philanthropic efforts? That's going to be my word for the day. I'm going to have to go through all days trying to say that. We want to conduct a comprehensive fundraising campaign. As you know, we finished the $1 billion campaign. Greg's here. When did we finish the?
2007.
2007. So it is probably time that we are entering into a silent phase and establishing a new campaign goal, and make sure that the goals of that campaign support our strategic plan. If we need general funds for faculty growth and faculty compensation, for example, how can we relieve pressures on our general fund through another capital campaign to create more resources for that? Not only using our dollars effectively, but using each type of dollar effectively. Which dollar should be spent first? It does make a difference in a public university. The fourth action is to complete the design and implementation of the values-based financial model. This is a huge task, and we don't want to implement anything that we do not have full faith that it will be successful, that it empowers the deans to make the wise decisions. They are closer to the ground than, of course, central administration, and they would know best, having the information on what programs should we be considering, what changes should we be making, what enrollment targets make sense at their college level. So we want to make sure that this values-based financial model supports the strategic plan. So this has actually been a good time to, as the strategic plan's being developed, we're also looking at the model and making sure, do all the incentives that we have in the model line up with what we're trying to do on the strategic plan? So our big questions for you are, what have we missed? And these are the actions to implement that we have left to do. How do we measure our success, and how will we implement these ideas? We are looking, the provost has announced, I should say, to the steering committee that she will be putting together an implementation plan that will be created by an implementation team that will be taking the strategic plan a step further. It is really going further to say, okay, what exactly do we need to do to achieve these key outcomes, and who is going to be held responsible, not necessarily for achieving it, but reporting on it. Because a lot of times you become what you measure. And so we've got to make sure from the beginning we know where we stand, where's the baseline, where do we want to go, and how are we going to report on this annually. And it is a 6-year process. We do not have to achieve everything in fiscal year 2014-15. And I think that's today. So I'll go back to that. Questions, comments? We've got
say that you have a great resource in our journalism school with people who know storytelling, and particularly social networking and different ways to get the message out. So I want to encourage you to think about leveraging those skills, not only of our faculty but also of our students, and maybe think about some kind of media center for the future, some kind of showcase facility where, if you're bringing in recruits, students and parents, it has a wow factor to it, but it's essentially the place where a lot of these stories are getting packaged and told and getting out to the community prospective students, front page of the New York Times, whatever would be helpful just to get that message out.
the media center to do that.
I think it's for the brand, the academic brand, right? Well, you're talking about it in that context. So,
Yeah, we've got to somehow get a better job of collecting all of our good stories and publicizing that. And we do, of course, and we can't always dictate what the newspapers print, which is fun. But we need to be able to tell our stories, especially, you're right, to captive audiences, if you will, if the students, the prospective students are coming to campus. Excellent point.
Will changing technologies include stuff like more online classes for people who can be students here without having to be here?
That's a good question, and that was one of the things that our goal was crossing over with goals 1 and 2 with undergraduate and graduate education and how instruction is delivered. And it comes to recognizing, I think, who and what we are. We are, and we believe that our future is still going to be the land-grant residential research institution. And I think that's, it makes sense. That's what we're building. We still believe in 50 years, parents will still want to send their children to college. There's a good, it means something as far as an development of a human being, as you know, for those important critical years. So while I think we will be, this is just my personal view, I think we will be expanding the use of online technology. I personally don't think that's going to be UK's role to move more into, especially undergraduate education, being wholly online. I think we will see more hybrid courses where it's used as a tool to help. And this is one of the things we've got to be smart about. And I know our group has talked about it, and we talked about with Vince Kellen, is we don't want technology necessarily to drive us. Just because it's new and, oh great, look what we can do, doesn't mean that's what we should do. We need to be smart about what makes sense for us. Does anybody want to add to that, especially those that went and talked with Vince?
I know another area that is possibly being explored is also, a lot of times you're finding that because maybe of constraints with the physical classrooms and everything else, that might prolong graduation rates, right? Because courses may not be available or they're only available a semester and everything like that. So I think they're probably evaluating some of the data that's out there to figure out, all right, how much of a percentage of students are requiring a particular class or course to complete their degree, and how can we possibly maybe utilize online learning to assist in that manner. Another thing about online learning that probably would be very valuable would be sometimes the collaborative and team-based learnings that you might want to train students with. As you can tell, in the workplace itself, in our professional workplace, we do a lot of that, right? So why not get the students accustomed to figuring out how they work in teams apart from in-person? How do you carry that on with maybe your online team meetings or whatever it is? So those things are being explored. If you do teach a course and you have an idea, I would say, send us an email or speak with me, and I can put you in touch with the appropriate senior manager. And we would love to be able to get our instructional designers possibly maybe working with you on that, because we know that we're in a campus also where a lot of times instructors would like to be able to see evidence of a case study and the success of that before maybe they thought about maybe how they would go ahead and use it for themselves. So just as a...
I work at the Career Center, and I think employers that recruit from UK would have a definite interest in that as well.
Yeah, so absolutely.
So I was going to piggyback on that. Just what you just said was getting a lot of the companies that recruit students from here, finding out what we're missing when they're interviewing our students and going, oh, you need this kind of skill to hire them into this corporation, and partnering with them, whether they pay us to do some of that or they just give us that information so we can utilize some of the other tools that we have here. For me, the main goal is to get them a job when they graduate.
And just following up on all of that, just in the facilities part of it, developing the additional facilities, One thing we were talking about was the integration of students into some of the development around campus and addressing some of the issues. We have worked with environmental management on some of the stormwater issues and trying to get students involved in developing kind of an outdoor laboratory. And that there would be a lot of opportunities perhaps in various other entities around campus. It allows the student to integrate into a real world situation. It's kind of project-based learning, and then that way they can step out. I mean, this is a little municipality really, so they learn, you know, while they're doing it. And so just in that consideration, it seems like a big step to step out of the classroom and into the outdoors, but it seems like a very natural step. And I don't know how you kind of get that movement going. Just in recent EPA grants, a lot of like some of the sustainable campus challenge grants that have gone on, students are getting very involved there in developing infrastructure, but it's green infrastructure. So just in trying to implement those types of projects.
I know we've done the traditional things as far as bringing student art into buildings and that kind of thing, but yes, to look out for the sustainability aspect of things as we go through this transformation.
I know that we are having our challenges across the university with different departments to see what kind of information they gather from their graduating students for their destinations of where they end up, which is kind of like a scorecard for the success of the university as far as people being placed beyond, you know, their education into the workforce. And something that you said kind of rang true to me, which is we're looked at as a bargain, and I would almost rather be a value than a bargain, if that makes sense.
And I think that's where we're really trying to change the story. Is that because right now there are students who in Ohio and Indiana look at in-state rates and look at our out-of-state rates, and especially if they're the child of alumni, I can go out-of-state at the same price or a little bit less than the same in-state. And so yes, how do we change that from going from a bargain to a value and a destination because of our academic strength? That's that academic branding that we really want to build up.
So what's the next steps, the actions to implement? You had mentioned about, well, we're going to be working on the measures over the summer. So
Right.
what kind is that timeline and what kind of input do you want from people?
The latest timeline that we were told is, actually the president wants to make sure we get this right and we have a lot of good input. So he wants to be able to present the strategic plan to the Board of Trustees at the October retreat. And so they can have a full discussion about it as well. So my understanding of the timeline is that the provost wants to have a good, I won't say a finished draft, but a very good draft within the next 2 or 3 weeks, so that she can then work with the integration committee over the summer to make sure that they fed in all the comments that we're receiving like this, and have the document to be able to go back out and get more comments as soon as school comes back in session in the fall, recognizing that a lot of the faculty are not here in the summer as well as the students. And that way be able to get that feedback in the early fall and be able to take it to the board then in October.
So is that feedback on what you've just shown us, or is that feedback on the measurements? Because we really haven't talked yet about quantitative measures.
Both. It
Okay.
is both. So if you have feedback on any of the actions or tactics or goals or strategies, how's anything's phrased, we'd be glad to take that now or take it in written form where you can say, I want to meet and go through what I've got. Because online, there is a fuller document with, really goes through this, not just bullet points. But we are trying to get feedback on the whole plan in order to craft it and have it ready and reflective of these meetings. So in essence, we're doing 2 rounds of feedback. We want to hear this, listen, put it in, make the changes, and then send it out. Say, we listened, and this is what makes sense on what is achievable in 6 years. One of the other exercises that the provost wants to do this summer is to do what she calls a resource output plan. You know, it's fine to put great big lofty goals and objectives on here, but how much does it cost? And what is it that is reasonable? Is there a financial viability to what we're putting together? Well, I guess we will close it out, but I will be here for at least as long as anybody wants to talk. And I sincerely thank my committee members for coming. We've got to work on Thursday. I understand I wasn't able to make one of our prep meetings yesterday, but I understand we're going to be in real good shape to have a very productive meeting on Thursday. I thank you all for coming.
Thank you.